Delaney, welcome to Business by the Books.
Thank you for letting me be here. I appreciate it. I was going to say, I love you. I love your whole team. So this is very fun.
Awesome. That's fantastic. And it warms my heart because what we do is really special. And so when it's making an impact for people, I just warm and fuzzies.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit about yourself and your mission in the world today.
Sure. So I am currently a podcaster and a writer. I host a podcast called Self-Helpless, which is basically like an unfiltered, uncensored personal growth show, I guess you could call it. A variety of topics and stuff there. And then I have a book coming out. So I'm also co-authored a book called Mocktails, which includes over 50 non-alcoholic, plant-based recipes, all literary inspired. And we're very excited about it because it's the first ever book of its kind in its category to be both alcohol-free and 100% plant-based. So it's kind of cool. More people are included in this space, including myself, that always felt kind of left out. So I'm excited about that. And then I'm also a creative writer at one of the largest nonprofits in the world, where I help them with ads, like print and video campaigns for their celebrity department. So yeah, podcaster, writer, but it looks a lot of different ways, which I'm sure we'll get into it. But that's how I would describe myself as far as, this year or this, handful of years or decade.
Phase of life. I like that.
But yes, this season. Yes.
All right. What drove you to create that podcast? Because that's a change.
Oh my gosh.
Change for you.
Yes. It has been so many changes. I've been doing it for about 8.5 years, I think now. It's been a while. And so what originally started was my past life, I was a stand-up comedian for about 6.5 years. And I met two of my best friends through doing stand-up, Kelsey Cook and Taylor Tomlinson. And we met actually, we were put together by this manager, and we were actually pitching a TV show together that we had co-written and all of that stuff. And so while we're going through the pitching process, we really just enjoyed being around each other. And as a stand-up in that world, it can often be hard to make friends and find people that you click with, especially in a very like kind of cutthroat industry, very male dominated, and also in an environment where, taking care of yourself is not really the norm in a lot of ways, and it's not really looked at as a good thing. It's almost like the happier you are or the healthier you are, the less funny you are. So the fact that we were all clicking that we love being creative, we loved joke writing, we loved all of that, but we also were very interested in self-improvement and taking care of our bodies and trying to figure out this balance. And so we created Self-Helpless as just kind of a side thing to say, well, while we're waiting on this TV show thing to see if that's going to go through, why don't we just do something else together? And of course, that's the thing that kind of took off, the podcast, where we were just talking about things in personal growth that interested us. So we were reviewing books and talking about what we liked or didn't like, and just getting to know each other as friends on this show. And and so since then, we are all very close still, and they've gone on to do amazing things in the stand-up world. I have left that part, that part of the entertainment industry, but they're full-time comedians and loving it. But
cool.
they had to leave the podcast one at a time once, their tour started picking up. But yeah, we're all good friends.
Good for them.
Yes.
All right. I want to talk about seasonality and how you manage finances through seasonality and life changes. But before we do that, tell us about the book. That's super exciting. What drove you to write that book?
Yeah, so it's actually kind of a funny thing. Last year for my birthday, I think it was, I just bought myself a course. I'm really interested. I love gift decks. Like when you go to the, I don't know, Urban Outfitters or something, and you see all the fun little decks. Yeah. I love Oracle decks. I love gift books. I love that. And so I saw that there's an entrepreneur that I like who was so it was Alex Franzen and Lindsay Smith. Their company was putting on a basically how to make your own Oracle deck course, and part of it was writing a proposal for your book and all that good stuff. So anyway, I ended up connecting with my literary agent there, and we ended up pitching this idea together and ended up getting a book deal, which I was very excited about. But I just wanted to make something that felt kind of inclusive in the drink recipe space. I'm newly a non-drinker. I've been vegan for, 7 years. And so I love those books, but I feel like I always have to modify recipes or, they just don't speak to me completely. And so my co-author, Lindsay, does not drink alcohol. And so we kind of were like, we need to make this for ourselves because we love these types of books, but we just don't see this type of thing. And that's how Mocktails was born. She is very much in the literary space as an agent and bookstore owner and an author. And I come from entertainment as a script writer and joke writer. And so you can definitely see how these mashed together to be Mocktails. And for those, for Mocktails, it's a pun, Tales. So it's mocktail drinks, but it's tales of different classic literature. And there's a lot of puns and delicious recipes and fun facts. And so we basically we saw a gap and we decided to fill it ourselves instead of kind of wait for it to be filled, which, of course, we can talk about that as a big part of entrepreneurship, but very excited. It comes out February 25th, but it's available for pre-order right now anywhere you like to get your books. So very excited.
Very cool. Well, congratulations on that.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Well, there's a lot of seasonality to what you do. And, I think that this is something that, we've worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs now, and there's a fear around as a creative that I don't have this reoccurring revenue. I don't have this stability of regular income into my business. And so therefore, how do I manage to pay myself? How do I manage to manage my funds personally? And how do I make sure that I have enough cash to manage the expenses in the business? So as you've gone through all these changes and waves of entrepreneurship, how have you used your numbers?
Oh my gosh. I was an absolute hot mess in the beginning.
Let's open up the whole can.
Let's do it. I mean, when I came to you guys shortly, like after Amanda, my current financial advisor, put me in touch with you guys, and I'm so grateful for that. But when I came to her, I had like receipts in drawers, and I had like an Excel spreadsheet that I was trying to keep my finances together, and just felt so completely lost. And so number one, what really helped was getting the right team in place. I wish I would have done it sooner. And I thought that I really had to be more established to have help in the finance department. And so I realized I could have done this I wish I would have done it as one of my first steps. I did not, but I was so glad when I did. So obviously having experts help you because it's their job to know how all this works. I was putting so much pressure on myself to basically give myself this like DIY finance degree on Google University of like, how do I do my taxes and so just the fact that you guys have my back is huge because I can ask a question and then you just tell me what to do. Like, I don't have to know everything as a business owner or entrepreneur. And that's huge. And I think that was a big kind of blind spot for me in the beginning where I really thought that I had to do literally everything in my business myself. So that was very important.
Superhero cape.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Please outsource or get help or barter or do whatever you have to do. But a couple of the things that helped me just internally with that anxiety of seeing my income fluctuate, I would have incredible months where I'd make more in a month than I did an entire year at my corporate job. And it would floor me. And then I would have months where I made a few $100. I'm like, what the hell is this? What is this going to be like? Right. But a couple things I had to start zooming out when looking at my revenue and my income, because I come from a world, the corporate entertainment world, especially where, you get paid every 2 weeks, you know exactly how much you're making and you don't have to think about it. But that's not what it's like every 2 weeks as a business owner. And so at first I had to start planning things and budgeting by looking at my last 3 months. That was my very first step. I remember, what did I make the last 3 months and how can that help me with projections or budgeting for the next few months? And then, years go by as you're a business owner, I started looking annually. Okay, what did I make this year versus last year? And so once I said, just zoom out, you cannot look at this every 2 weeks. Like you're getting paid by an employer,
Yeah.
and that was extremely helpful. I started thinking, okay, it's a good month. Don't celebrate too much. And okay,
Don't
it's a bad
celebrate
month.
too much.
Right. Don't go too crazy. Keep it in the bank.
I know, it's like
And then
we need to look at the information monthly. However,
yes. Right.
we can't make reactions monthly, like look
Exactly.
at it, but then look at like what
Exactly.
does the last quarter look like? What did the last year look like? I love that.
Absolutely, absolutely, and again, on a bad month, don't get too sad, right? It's gonna even out, So zooming out was massive for me, and then there was another tip that really helped me that I heard from, an entrepreneur, Rachel Rogers quoted this by somebody else who I
Yeah, she's
forget
great.
who it's by. She's great, and she said that, I think one of her mentors said, "Find a new zero for yourself as an entrepreneur." So for me, I was like, if it was a tough time, I would be just watching my bank account kind of dwindle down to, well, what if it gets close to actual zero? And so if your new zero is $500 or 5,000 or 10,000, whatever it is for you, of like, okay, if my new zero is $5,000 in my business account, that's when I'm going to spring into some action about certain things instead of letting it get down to
Actually
actual
be a
zero.
zero.
Yeah, so that felt like a good little mindset buffer as well,
I like that.
that I just did not have in place before. And then the other thing is really just I've always had multiple streams of revenue, and those have shifted over the past decade or so. But I usually have three at a time, and in some seasons, it's absolutely because of necessity, because I need all three to kind of make it through and survive as an entrepreneur. And sometimes it's because I just have that many interests at that time. And although I could focus on one thing and make enough from one of my businesses or whatever it was, I don't want to because I'm excited about this other opportunity as well.
All right, so
So,
how do you keep that from going more? Because that is one of the
yeah,
things that we do see with clients is skipping too fast, where I'm
yes.
interested in something, I'm gonna try it. There's not enough people knocking down my door in 3 months, 6 months, so now I'm excited about this thing, so I'm gonna go try it
Oh,
again. I'm gonna go try that, but, like, how do you know
yes.
how long each one should stay with you before you change or keep yourself from adding,
What
like, 6?
incredible question. I think for me, I mean, filtering your ideas as a creative is a feat in itself.
If my poor
And then
team.
business. Yes, that's how I felt with my team. Like, oh, I'm so sorry. Um, but okay, so I think there's a couple things. I know for me, it's much it's much easier for me to make decisions when I see, okay, which thing is making money because I do have to pay my bills, and which thing is maybe more in the hobby category right now that I can work on more leisurely. That's a whole other filtering process. But in the beginning, when I was like, I have way too many ideas, I have to figure out where I even want to go. Like, what is my compass? I had to think about the lifestyle that I wanted. I had like eight different ideas, eight things on my plate, eight different paths. And I had to think about, well, what do I want my day to look like? I want to be able to work from home. I want to do something creative. I want to have agency over my time and my schedule. I love the flexibility, and I'd like to do something kind of funny and or meaningful and mash that together. So I looked at these eight different ideas I had, and there was only two things on that list that actually could provide me with that. That's why I left stand-up comedy. I did all these things that I don't want to travel all of the time for a living. I don't want to be out every night. I'm a homebody, right? So the lifestyle that I wanted was really a driving force. That helped me cut back first. And that's when I launched a business from my home. I did the podcast, and then I was able to leave my corporate job and do that full time. So that's number one. Then when things start making money, it gets, I think, a little bit harder for me personally because it's hard to say no to
Interesting.
money. Let's be real.
Yeah.
So I for me, the next kind of big decision was I had a product based business, a service based business, and a podcast all at once. All of them were making money. Of course, they were fluctuating, but they were all doing relatively well. So then I had to really think about, oh my gosh, I don't want to give something up, but I have to for my own sanity here.
Yeah.
And I gave up the product based business. And I did that because it just felt more in line with my values to do a service based business and this like kind of digital entrepreneurship space. because I'm more of a minimalist. I knew I was creating a lot of product in the world that maybe didn't need to be there. And so that kind of was a big factor. And also, I just really enjoyed working with people one-to-one with podcast consulting and things that I was doing. It just felt more simple. So that one was more of like a simplicity kind of, I guess, ethical decision in a
I
lot
like
of
that it
ways.
aligned with your core values. I don't think we give
Yes.
that enough space in our minds of what
Yeah.
really aligns with our core values. And it's okay to say no when it no longer aligns because we're going to change.
It absolutely. And then honestly, like in my 20s, I felt like I could handle a lot of risk as an entrepreneur where
Right.
I didn't know what it was going to be month to month. As I got older, as I hit my 30s, really, I realized I don't think I'm as welcome, to this anymore. I don't really want as much risk.
Before we continue, a quick favor. If you found value in this show and want us to keep growing with bigger guests and more strategies, please rate and review on Apple or Spotify. It really helps. Thanks for listening.
And so I shifted my revenue stream. So now with my 3 streams, I work for this nonprofit. That is stability for me. And I really enjoy my work. It's a creative role. And I know that that's not going anywhere and it's going to be the same every month. And I can really count on that. My podcast, medium stability. Like it's been around for a while. I can kind of expect how much it's going to bring in. And then things like writing a book or other projects. I don't know what the hell's going to happen with that. That's just kind of a fun thing. So that was a big decision for me is I just don't think I can handle the ebbs and flows as much anymore. But it doesn't mean I don't want to stop being an entrepreneur. I want to keep being entrepreneurial. I just need this other income, my third income, to be something a little bit more conventional for my own sanity. So that's kind of another pivot that I made. And I think that's kind of important to talk about too, where it doesn't have to be all or nothing.
It doesn't.
I think, entrepreneurs like beat themselves up if they think that they need a little something different. And I think you can feel like you have failed as a business owner or entrepreneur, but I really don't see it that way. I see it as how can I make this sustainable to like have a creative job indefinitely.
And we don't have to drop
it's
one
just-
to take on the other. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
something that we're seeing a little
exactly.
bit this year as well. Like I need some
Yes.
stability. Doesn't mean you have to drop your business and your creative passion. You can do both.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can do both. And it's just, okay, it might look a little bit different until you find your footing. But I don't know. I was just willing to do that for myself. So for a while, I mean, until I got into this role with this nonprofit where I've been able to kind of make my own schedule and do the creative stuff that I like, I was working there full time and doing my podcast and writing a book. I was working 7 days a week for 4 months, which is not the kind of lifestyle that I want.
But it's a
However,
sprint.
but it's a sprint and I knew there was an end date. I
Yeah.
knew there was light at the end of the tunnel. And so I was willing to do that for a short period of time to get what I have now, which is the flexibility again. And, it's just kind of a messy transition period, but I just what I needed. I'm in the
Part of the process.
podcasting industry. Yeah. Very volatile industry in podcasting. It's very up and down. And I had a consultancy, but I realized that I really wanted to make my own stuff again. I love helping people with their stuff, but it was important for me to like bring my own stuff back into the fold here. So
Yeah. Beautiful.
it's ever
I love that.
evolving.
It is ever evolving. Well, let's talk about how it has impacted your personal life. So
Yeah, sure.
we find partners who they're along with this entrepreneurship journey. And whether we like it or
Yes.
not, the finances impact our homes.
Yes.
So what impact has your business seasonality and fluctuations had on your personal life and your relationships?
Such a good question. I am super grateful that my husband, Cam, has always been supportive. I mean, and I don't know if I could say this on the podcast, but my first business was something very, very strange where I painted phallic cartoons, let's just say. And so, a lot of people hear that and like, you're crazy. And my husband, or he was my boyfriend at the time, was just along for the ride, thought it was great
Love
and
it.
fun. And it enabled me to leave my day job. So I am grateful in that respect. I know that not every partner is that supportive when it comes to an alternative career path. overall, we have gone back and forth being the breadwinner. I was, and then he was, and then I was, and he was. So we're in a place where he is the breadwinner. And so we just look at our finances more as a team. In the beginning of our relationship, I felt like I had to be very separate and very individual to him. And I think that comes a lot with kind of conditioning that I experienced as a woman of like, you never know what's going to happen. Always have your own money, always like be careful. And I believe in that 100%, always have your own thing. But I think it made me very scared to like mesh anything with him, which, we need to talk about these things. We need to be a team. So we logistically, it's looked a million different ways. We have had completely separate accounts where we just pay half for everything that, we're doing as a couple. Then we had separate accounts and a joint account for our overhead expenses, rent, utilities, all that, where we would have like auto payments go to our joint. And now we just have a joint account, and I have a business account because I have to keep that separate, obviously. But I was somebody, I never thought I would have a joint account with my husband because I was so worried that like, I don't want to see that you're spending like $80 on potato chips every month. I think that will just annoy me. Like, I had a lot of feelings about seeing everything, but now it makes the most sense. For our shared goals, we're saving things together. The way that I make money has changed, where I now have this more conventional job that it makes sense for that money to go into our joint account while keeping my business separate. And so it's just really looked like, what do we need for us as a couple? Because in the beginning, it was just he's my boyfriend. I don't want to see what you're spending on. And I just want to make sure our bills are covered. And, you can buy gifts for me from your account and vice versa. And that's kind of all we needed. But once we got married and we had shared goals as a couple, we just needed things to operate a little bit differently. So yeah, that's kind of how it's looked, financially. And he works in finance, in entertainment finance. So he's, he likes numbers and all of that stuff. So he kind of looks at a lot of that stuff for us. But we have automations though. Like I'm like, the $80 on potato chips doesn't really bother me if I know X amount is being transferred to, our investments or savings account with our financial advisor, like all that stuff. So I've had to like let go a little bit.
You mentioned financial advisor, and I want to touch on that because I think people forget. Okay, we get so entrenched in living life and running our business, we forget about planning for our financial futures. So can you just tell me a little bit about how having a financial advisor has played into how you manage your money?
Oh gosh, it's another game changer. I mean, I thought that I had to do everything on my own, like learn about stocks and investments. And I realized I could just have somebody who knows how to do that and can help us. So she kind of explained herself to me as like, picture me as like, I'm the quarterback of like your money team in a way where I can talk to, bookkeeping, and I can talk to your CPA, and I can do all these things.
She really does.
And she does.
Great partner for us.
Exactly. And so I'm like, okay, she's the quarterback. So she's usually like my first point of reference of like, who do I need to speak to about this? Or how can you help? And she helps with all of it. I mean, Cam and I meet with her quarterly and talk about where we're at with, our finances, what our current goals are, what our bigger goals are. So we're saving for retirement. She's helping me save like in a business savings account or something. I don't even know what a lot of these are called. I'm going to be honest, but to be able to just say, this is what we're looking for. And then she is able to say, okay, this is what we need to do with your money, is huge. And again, I thought that I had to be making a crap ton of money to have a financial advisor. And, that wasn't the case. So it's been immensely helpful. And I just realized that I just need to rely on people who know what they're doing. And especially as an entrepreneur, we can have issues with control and letting go of control.
Me.
Yeah, right. And letting people who are experts at their thing do their thing has been huge for me. And also just when I have different team members, letting them do something their way instead of my way. Of course, there's a happy medium, but you have to relinquish a little bit if you're going to make this lifestyle work for you. And I had to do that with my husband too. I'm like, I want to kind of safeguard a lot of my financial stuff out of fear of like, I have to have all my things separate in case something terrible happens or something in my marriage, and just letting him help me, like allowing yourself to be supported has been a very big lesson for me, and allowing him to help me even help myself. So that's been big, and that's
allowing
reflected.
Your family to help you, and then allowing your money team to work together to help you, and you don't have to be the one. I think that's what's hard for me to watch, is when clients are trying to communicate between us as their bookkeeper to some other CPA to some financial advisor who doesn't want to talk to us. I'm like, guys, we all need to work together. Right? Like, this is our shared person who we're championing. Like, we want them to be successful. How do we make sure that we're working together to make sure that they feel supported?
And it's great realizing that you don't have to do everything on your own. I just was fiercely independent, almost like to a fault.
Yeah, me too. Are you the oldest in your family?
I am the oldest of 4 kids on one side of my family. And then on my mom's side, I'm the only kid. And so I just felt like, I've always been very independent and didn't like accepting help very much. But now it feels good to know that, I'm supported by my husband. When he needs support, I have him, and our finances can reflect that. Sometimes I need to make more money to support him and vice versa. It's taken a while to get here, but I'm glad.
Very cool. All right. Well, as you approach the next season of your journey, is there any specific numbers or anything specific that you're going to be looking at? Like, this book is going to come out, right?
Yeah.
What are you going to use to keep your money mindset strong? What are you going to use to look at on a regular basis?
So I got to be honest, I think this is the first time I haven't had a numbers goal or been looking at my numbers frequently.
So totally unattached to the outcome.
I'm very unattached to the outcome. I basically have talked with my husband of like, what is the minimum amount I need to be bringing in every month? And I'll make sure I do that. Other than that, because, again, he's our finance boy. But other than that, it's just, I'm really able to do the things that I enjoy. So if I'm pitching the next book idea, if that gets picked up, I'm excited to write that. I'm just kind of going with the flow. And I used to kind of obsess about the numbers and let them make decisions for me, in the sense of, I would take money. I would take money for things that maybe weren't always in alignment with my values, because I got really excited about making money. It's very fun when, especially when you've never made it and then your business really starts to thrive and you're making a good amount. I was freaking stoked.
And you're doing all the things.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden you're doing all the things.
Exactly. And so I'm now looking at, does this kind of fit all of my goals? Like, a big part of me is this some form of activism in some way where it's helpful to people or animals or the planet? And also, is it fun and is it funny? Like, that's kind of how I'm filtering my projects and streams of revenue. So I kind of just have like a minimum amount goal instead of like a goal that I'm hoping to reach. It's just like, what's the bare minimum I got to do so I can play, in a way?
I call that a break-even analysis. So
perfect.
I love that you said that.
Much better.
You're like going to feed right into my next episode. So one of the things that we're talking about is break even, because there's this whole culture around growing higher. And really what we see with our clients is that bigger is not more profitable. The bigger your company is, the more people you need, the layers of management, the software that you need to support it. There's a significant expense that goes to growing a business. And so not all of us want to be there. And so maybe we want to have a smaller, more profitable business. That's awesome. But we need to know exactly what that looks like. What's our break-even point? And I mean this both business and personally. So our break-even point is, we need to be able to cover our operating expenses in our business, maybe any employees or consultants who work with us on a regular basis, but then our home, like, what does our family need from us? And that's included in that break-even number. And that's your new sales goal.
Yes. Exactly. And I did that, Danielle. I did the whole I'm building a team and I'm going to have a bigger business, and then I realized, wait a minute. I really like being more solo entrepreneurial, and I had to experience like the opposite to realize, you know what? I'm going to scale these things back, and I've been a lot happier because of it. I feel less stressed and I feel less pressure because of it. But I wouldn't have known unless I experienced it for myself. Because, I was looking at the numbers, I was looking at my kind of happiness level. And yeah, I don't know. I just like kind of doing my own thing and getting help with things as needed. But I didn't get into entrepreneurship or creative entrepreneurship to be a manager of people. And I felt like I was very in that role more so than in the creative roles that I enjoy that made me want to be an entrepreneur in the first place. So, it's not the numbers are not as sexy. I'll be honest. It's not as sexy as anymore, but I feel very creatively fulfilled. And that's been the kind of the trade-off right now.
Let's find our break-even number that helps us balance our lives and our happiness, our energy levels. Awesome.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. Where can everyone find you, the podcast, and the book?
Absolutely. DelaneyFisher.com. We'll have everything there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
If you are a business owner who needs a money team, I invite you to go to kickstartaccountinginc.com or click the link in the show notes and come and book a discovery call. The Kickstart Accounting Inc. team and I are here to be a resource for you on your entrepreneurial journey. We want to take bookkeeping off of your plate and help arm you with the information you need to grow and thrive in your business. Don't wait, click the link below and let's get started.